Ace, you coming? Go on, go. Ace, go on. The human soul. Maybe more than just human. What is it? We're going to talk about remaking the soul. In the last episode, we did the self-assessment, kind of the who we are, and tried to bring that together to encompass who we are, what we want to be. Now let's talk about the soul, making decisions. I want to put an emphasis in this as on journaling and taking notes. Not just for people with bad memory or good memory, but the value in taking notes that you can reflect on it while you're taking the notes gives you, it's another opportunity, a way to think through your thoughts so that you can see them, and then when you remember them or you see it written again, it can re-trigger another emotion. That'll give you more direction on how you should make the decisions moving forward based on your own emotional response to reading your own notes. Then obviously the value in taking notes to make sure you're still on the right path to witchcraft talks about putting magic and energy into crystals, if you will, but all it is recalling the way something feels and then associating it with an object so that you can then recall that feeling again. No different than pictures or any other memory. It's what most of it is. But anyway, soul. What is the soul? We're going to talk about how to repair the soul, which can only be done with true awareness, really. I'll give an example of what I mean by this. This drunkard I know that betrayed Ace did something to Ace. When he was drunk, he didn't. When he's sober, he wouldn't have the audacity to do what he did. But it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to Ace. He did what he fucking did. So I called him out on it, and he apologized right away. Said he didn't remember doing it, and that's where the problem lies. Is he's not really apologizing because he doesn't know what he's apologizing for. He does know what he's apologizing for, but he doesn't fully know, and he'll do it again, especially when he's drunk, because people turn their rational brain off, and you can lean into your animal mind when you're drunk, and then everyone just gives themselves the excuses of, oh, well, I was drunk, you gotta forgive me, and then I can go to rehab, and then I can say, oh, I was a victim of my disease, so now you have to forgive me. And I know some rehabilitated folk and some non-rehabilitated folk. It's really easy to tell the difference. The people that really feel guilty about their drug abuse and the behavior it causes them to do while they're on the worst of all the drugs, which is alcohol, because the other drugs change and alter the body and the mind, but the alcohol is the one that causes the most damage. Because, like I said, it's Rufalin. It's pretty much just low grade Rufalin, which is the drug that makes your brain shut off and not remember anything for a period of time. And so the frat boys are like, it's okay if she's drunk and you're drunk, but if you give her Rufalin, it's not good, and it's just all the same. It's all the same. It's no different. Shades of fucking gray, if you want to call it that, but it's no fucking different. Repenting and atoning, it's a human thing. It's humanity. It's if you are really sincere and apologize and repent and atone, the other person on the other side of your whatever you did tends to almost always just would be inhuman to not have the feeling of relief that the person that wronged you is sincere about knowing they did something wrong to you and open to the idea of fixing it somehow. And both humans then get a relief from all the pain that they were in emotionally, that their spirit was in. I gotta get a shirt. It's cold. Hi. You want to see sunset? what is the soul? The energy inside of us. I'm going to use the energy chart to describe the feelings, the strengths of the feelings, and what you associate the feeling to. But that doesn't seem to fully express what the soul actually is. So we're going to go through a few philosophies and assume that there's overlap and multiple can be right at the same time, which makes all of them fall short of what it really is because they pigeonhole themselves into thinking it's this and only this, and not being able to process the full extent of the human soul. We pulled what religion kind of thinks the spirit is. Seems to be hard if you can say religion in general, but the main religion is Christianity. The Vatican's Christianity in America here. But religion in general tends to see it as some level, even Jews, Muslims, people that have the religious philosophy of God, see the soul as an element that existed before birth and will continue to exist until after birth. Or some of them may think it existed at birth or conception, depending upon whether you want to kill your offspring or not. Philosophically, different philosophers have different ideas about it, right? Some some think it's the what do they have, the essence of who we are, that unchangeable characteristic that makes you who you are, that I don't fully agree with, because it implies in that concept that it is something that you can't necessarily change, which is what I want to focus on today, is the difficulty to change it because it feels like it's biological, feels so strong that it must be genetic. It can't just be natural human experience that everybody fucking goes through, and you need to just learn how to fucking deal with it. Figure out what went wrong so you fucking don't have it anymore. Then there's the idea of it being the essential driving force of life itself within each creature, that instinct to survive. And that can then eliminate a lot of things, because then what you do and the decisions you make based pretty much on how you successfully got your needs met, then you're just going to continue to repeat it, because that's what humans do. This is how I get this need met, so I'm just going to keep doing it every time I want to get that need met, whether I'm doing it right or wrong. I don't fucking care. It doesn't matter who suffers as long as I get that need met. That then causes the karmic problems that we're going to have to dive into karma. Then modern psychology takes a approach at the soul being a combination of biology then history, and then your response isn't necessarily considered the soul's reaction to torment or whatever you're going through at the time, the pain and suffering. It's a disease that's irrevocably unchangeable about you, so that they can continue to make money off you taking your drugs and going to them to gossip about your community instead of solving your fucking problems and being decent fucking human beings. So they can encompass your decision making process, and then how you feel, and then regulate your soul by saying it's a problem. Because modern psychology doesn't understand the soul either. Metaphysical one. This is a good one that's hard to wrap your mind around, it being real, but also hard to deny if you start actually thinking about it. And that is the interconnectedness, the oneness of all things existing, that collective consciousness that different cultures talk about being maybe ancestors or spirit guides, different things that connect us all as humans. It's just really hard to try to really say what that is. Examples being what we talked about, the repenting and atoning concept. If you have genuine, sincere regret for poor decision making or causing harm upon another person, and you do something good to refill what you did wrong, there tends to eliminate all the pain and strife within everybody. That fear within the person for the other be retaliating for their bad behavior or their trespasses against their neighbor. Both people get the peace that their soul would either be giving them fear that they'd be going to some therapist to blame other for making them feel a feeling they don't like, rather than figuring out why they have a feeling, understanding if it's something to take serious, or just say that was a silly idea and move on with your life. The energy that's inside of us, the soul, is what we want to focus on, is how to remake it, because the tears on the soul can be repaired in regards to a lot of things. The energy it speaks to us. And when we talk about meditating and being silent with your thoughts and feeling the feelings and being with those feelings and sitting there with that energy and listening to what that energy has to say, trying to hear it and understand how to repair what it's telling you to repair. Fragmented souls, all somewhat interconnected, because we understand there's things that connects us all as human beings. There's certain characteristics and qualities that separate us and make us different, from physical to emotional thoughts, behaviors, morals, or lack of. And the last video we talked about how to reflect on yourself and see yourself for who you really are and who you want to be and where you want to go. Now we're going to start talking about how you get your needs met. And the soul, your spirit, your motivator, your inspiration, that's your driving force, also helps direct where your focus is. When we talk about the soul, it encompasses a lot about who we are, what we put into the soul, what we keep there, what we discard. And a lot of people are really ready to just discard anyone that's giving them a bad vibe and not really gives a fuck about anything or anyone. And our society is really set up to that. It's a very feminine, a very female approach to problems, is to just get angry, storm off, and pretend they don't fucking exist anymore. And it's real easy for girls to do it, because then they get to pretend they're victims and they lie and they be fucking dirty cunts. And this is another reason why Ace hates me doing these. Sorry, buddy. Triggers. That's what we're talking about next in shadow work. How do you heal so that those triggers don't take you, which can cause the longer term problems down the line, unforeseen problems down the way, which leads into cognitive behavioral therapy. To retrain, the purpose of this one is, how are we remaking the soul? So what is our soul? Who are we? The Maslow's hierarchy needs the needs outline, figured it out, helped us outline who we are and who we want to be and what makes us. And then how we let our emotions rule us, and sometimes you just need to let an emotion wash over you like a wave. But anyway, we're going to start addressing outlining triggers and how we find them and how we respond to them through doing shadow work. Understanding why we have a trigger. Is it a fight or flight, that fear instinct, or an anger instinct, or a jealousy? What's the feeling, and how do you necessarily respond to that feeling of not necessarily having what you want or need, your need not being met, or being reminded of a need not being met, and then how you respond in that moment to try to get that need met. I want to put a heavy focus on journaling, because writing something down when you're emotional is a way to reflect on it, in the moment that you're having the feelings of the inspiration. What is that? What is your spirit telling you? Writing it down on a piece of paper is a way to get that out to yourself so you can see it. Journaling is a way to help you reflect on yourself because you get to go back to it again. The memories that you get, the emotional response to reading what you wrote later, the recall, gives you another opportunity to address the issue. It's also save it for later. So if you have, it's really hard to talk about having a therapist or somebody to talk to about your problems because most people just like venting and feel good about talking things through with people and then validating ideas they already wanted to be validated, or it's just a whole fucking thing that irritates me. You should really just sit with them and stop letting other people give you ideas because they just give shit ideas. Everyone's just getting shit ideas out there. But you can help make the decisions later on because you can reflect on them and look at them from different angles rather than just acting out a feeling in the moment. And then for goals and growth, journaling is great for writing about where you've been and where you want to go and having your outline of what your needs need to be met, which we talked about in obviously the last video, was what are your needs and how do you get them met, and writing down your goals obviously, and for remembering things. I use it a lot for learning too. It's things I need to research later, like a definition or a subject matter that I'm not fully familiar with that I want to gain more insight into, or business side. It's just writing things down so you have. Gee, sorry, we're not playing. No, 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 no. The answer is no. Thank you for being a good boy, Ace. I'm sorry she's woke you up. Sorry she woke you up from your peaceful nap. That was rude of you. It was very rude of you. And so the different types of journaling that people do are like free writing, they say, or prompt based writing. The gratitude journals are great because they help remind you why life is good. The dream journals are fun, but don't take them too seriously. A dream is just a fucking dream. No different than any other thought that you might have. The idea behind this is journaling. It's writing something down that's inspiring, that makes you feel, or while you're feeling, writing. And those can be pulled from anyway: music, art, general, your life, whatever inspires you, whatever that makes your soul burn. And then start journaling about it, and then you can go to a more stable set of mind when you're not as charged, and hopefully realize why you felt the way you felt. Got to figure out a way to outline these things of why it's important, because just because you had a feeling doesn't mean that you have to do anything about that feeling. It'll disappear. Fucking in the jail, these bitches put together something about remaking the soul. Gee, leave him alone. No. And I'm gonna run through that real quick. We're definitely not getting to shadow work. This fucking dog doesn't let me do anything. No. They outline a path to making your soul healed. And I kind of like it. They just don't have repenting and atoning in here as hard as they should have it in there. But they have it. They have alchemy. See, most people, instead of repenting and atoning and finding peace with their community and with everyone, they want to live in the feeling. So they want to catch the vibe. They can't. See, these girls, these fucking skanks out here, they can't catch the lustful vibe. They can't catch these feelings without having a negative feeling that's charging them. And then, so they love living in that negative vibe. and being charged and having that charged feeling. It's where they get their power. So all the cardinal sins, lust, fear, envy, rage, wrath, all those fucking things you'll do to feel power. That's all it is for most people. Girls are just being skanks because it feels great to be lusted after. So girls are wearing their spandex and their tits are hanging out, fucking spandex going all the way up their ass crack. These fucking girls that have, it's not like they're competitors. It's not their competitors looking for best possible most aerodynamic ability to most flexibility and range of motion. No, they're just a bunch of skank hoe bags that want to fucking show off their ass and their fucking tits, or they're just so comfortable being a part of society and numb to it. But they're not, because they all want to turn on whenever they want to fucking turn on and catch that lustful vibe. And they want to be able to say, look at my ass and look at my tits. All these Instagram fucking skanks everywhere. Instagram sluts everywhere you fucking look. Look at my tits, look at my ass, here it is. Everyone gets to fucking see it because I have no fucking decency. I'm not a human being, I'm just a fuck toy walking around. Treat me like one. And anyone that I want. Anyway, fuck you women are fucking trash. Reunion with yourself they have is seek the truth to harmonize who you were, who you are, and who you wish to be. And I want to talk about that, who you were versus who you are versus who you want to be, because we're talking about the soul and how to remake it. So who you are, a lot of people don't want to change. They say, I like who I am. I like these things about me. So they're really not interested in change and getting better. I heard it a lot of just all over the place. I like me the way I am. I don't need to change. Alchemy. What is alchemy? Transformation of a lower level entity to a higher level entity. So when you're trying to elevate, the problem a lot of people have is the balance between eliminating from your life that which is causing you a negative feeling versus doing what's more difficult in figuring out how to resolve that, so you no longer have that negative feeling. It's just much more fun to recruit a team of conspiracy theorists to team up against your enemies, your imagination. So you have to eliminate those things that are holding you back. Like, I don't necessarily want to eliminate my family and friends from my life. It's just constantly knowing they're just on the alert, ready to destroy what I'm creating. Whenever Jessica or Ed has a feeling to destroy, they're just gonna jump in and be fucking awful fucking people. Having them be a part of my life means to ensure that anything that I want in life is destroyed, because Ed or Jessica had a fucking feeling. So I have to and always have had to eliminate them from my life, and I've just been alone pretty much my whole fucking life, just avoiding everyone. Because if your own fucking family are just lurking ready, the only thing they ever fucking do is cause you pain and fucking suffering, then you just fucking don't want to be around anybody. So we got to eliminate some things that aren't willing to repent and atone and be decent fucking human beings. Well, we talked about it earlier. It's just the fucking essential part of peace is acknowledging that one does wrong. But I hate the idea of eliminating people. It's problematic. Just eliminating them from my life doesn't seem to fucking help, because I have to fucking think about it all the time. It's just been a part of my soul for so long to just rip someone out. It's just you still remember. I'm addressing them, so I'm going through and doing the shadow work by rethinking the thought itself, and by going over it is doing the shadow work. Are you eating this stuff? No, you're not. Alchemize yourself too. You have to. This fucking. I wish I had the book Alchemy for the Soul. I have to get it back. I gave it to someone in the mental institution. It had all of my notes on it. It was great, and it really talked about how you can go through a spiritual alchemy. But the idea is There's things that you're doing that are holding you back, or you're not doing that are preventing you from success. And you know what those things are. And so you need to go find out and reflect on what those things are and stop doing those things that are holding you back and start doing the things that are going to help you get to your goal. It's pretty simple, but if you don't write it down and you're not really focused on it, you'll just forget about it and go do whatever's easiest, like scroll through Facebook or go jerk off or go try to catch a vibe somewhere, fucking binge watch a TV show or go eat fucking food and get fatter and fatter and fatter. So how you remake the soul is then it says go to create, and step 3 is creating. So you're starting to create yourself as who you want to be and building the world you want to see it as. So you just start creating, and then it goes down a list of how you help stay focused on your goal and how you can get there. And so the next idea is to meeken your ego. To meeken is to not make it as important as you think it is. So you meeken yourself by remembering that you're just a speck on this planet, and in this time, just another human existing. And then once you realize that you're just another human, another spirit on this planet, you don't become as important, and the collective becomes equally important, which is a good thought. And then it goes to remember, which goes back to note taking. If you don't take your notes, you're just going to remember sporadically rather than remembering when you want to remember, so then you can address it when you want to address it. Then it goes celebrate success, be grateful. Celebrate success is a good thing, because if you can't see yourself winning and where you have wins and be happy about it, and celebrating can just be listening to a song you want, or remembering, I don't know, writing it down. We have gratitude journals, which is a good one. So write the gratefulness down. It's got play down here as number 7, because if you can't be playful and have fun and everything is just strict, it becomes it's the negative emotion. We still want to have the good vibes only. That's the goal, is to get to the good vibes only, and not by pretending that bad vibes don't exist, but by healing and resuscitating whatever was destroyed that caused the bad vibes. So the idea here isn't to stop playing and only work and only be in pain and suffering and take the drugs and go to your psychiatrist to take the drugs and say you're damaged forever and you have bipolar, so your anger is okay and you're not just a fucking asshole that's venting and unleashing all your anger and your rage on people around you unjustly for no fucking reason and no goal other than just to get your fucking feelings out, or whatever other fucking imaginary disease that you get so you can go take your fucking drugs. Anyway, the idea is to help heal so those things don't cause the negative vibration, so we can remain in the good vibe. Hold up, I got you, G. Be purposeful. That's should be higher up on the list. I understand play is important, but play shouldn't be above what your purpose is, and living life in that purpose. And if you're not living in that purpose, then what are you fucking doing with your life? Just fucking, if you don't have a purpose and you have nothing that's keeping your spirit in check, and you're just feeding the spirit the good vibes, the karmic retribution, it's life is a balancing scale. Life is on a weighing scale. So when you put good into it, then the negative emotions are going to come in form of night terrors, in form of panic attacks, in form of lust and thirst and craving and a hunger to have needs met, that suicidal ideations, just a lot of fucking garbage that you don't fucking want. And if you put pain and suffering into the mix, then the weighing scale of pain and suffering is going to overflow into good at some point. Examples are working hard, exercising, training the mind. You just get smarter, better, stronger the more you struggle through it. Rehuman self and others. That's something we kind of talked about with Meek and Ego. But the rehuman self and others, that's what people aren't doing. This is who I am because this is what the system created me. I'm whatever materialistic job title I am and what I've done, what I do to make money, or this and that, or blah blah blah. And you forget that you're just a human being and that everyone else is a human being. And everyone else has needs and wants and desires trying to be met, which leads into unconditional love, eros, freedom, and truth. Unconditional love, freedom, and truth. The truth, I think, is really important. Unconditional truth. Because when you start putting conditions on the truth and you start to justify why you're lying, you're just going down a slippery slope of creating chaos in the future. That's what we keep talking about, that karmic balance. When you put lies out there, the truth is then called karma. Listen to your conscience. That's one of the things that it talks about. Listen to your conscience. And I think, especially if the answer is no, especially if whatever's inside you is telling you that it's not a good idea at some point, then you should be giving it second, third, fourth thoughts. And be okay with the answer being fucking no. And telling your friends no and just saying fucking no so that you can be happy about who you are. Because God forgives those that repent and atone, but it takes a long time to get free from the chaos in your soul. Once you realize and you address your shadows, which we'll get into next. Saying give in to shame-based fear. That's one that people don't want to do, especially girls, especially bitches. They just want to justify that they're not to be shamed. They're not to be shamed for being sluts. No, they're allowed to fucking give their snatch to whoever they want. Any promise they make, they can destroy so they can satisfy that pussy. Let's empowered women right now. No shame, never shame. And if you have a soul, and you're not just a fucking dead inside evil fucking skank, then you realize that you fucking are not creating real connections with anybody. That they're just you go through one fucking skank or two, or you go through a couple bimbos or couple fuck boys, and you fucking realize it's just a pattern of how you get charged to have sex. And you're either playing along and pretending you're not a fucking scumbag, or you know you're a scumbag living in your suicidal ideations, not caring because you're just having fun and you got nothing better to do than be fucking pure evil. Because most everybody's given themselves to somebody or has multiple people that their soul belongs to in ways, promises they've made, and destroyed that to go fuck around and have fun. And the game is to say you don't never shame a girl for doing all the terrible things she does so that she can go be empowered and have fun being whatever the fuck she wants to be. And all these girls are suicidal, just like the eat, pray, love bitch. They're all fucking panic attacks and fucking blaming men for it rather than blaming themselves. Blaming themselves for destroying their homes. Because no shame, no shame, no shame in any fucking girl's life at all. Or else you're out, or you're out. Kenzie, shame for being a fucking evil cunt? No, no, no. She's not ashamed. She's the victim, and you're the bad guy. That's it. That's what it is. Here's one. Synergize with all parts of self. It's hard to do. It's hard to synergize with all parts of yourself because parts of yourself still need to be eliminated. Clean yourself up. 13 has got be happy with peace. And that's something to really talk about. These people, one of the guys in jail was talking about how he was ready to turn in the being bad and hang out and play euchre. I didn't buy it because he likes gambling and the crack too much. And when he has the negative emotion, he quit gambling for a day, and then I told him something that upset him, and that immediately just went right to gambling, and then got mad because people weren't gambling hard enough and wanted to go to a harder block where there was harder folk. So the being happy with peace part, it's just like going to the casino and gambling your money away, knowing you're gonna lose, but there's always that thrill that you might have a win that day. But almost every time you go, you're just barely winning, or you're fucking bare losing. You're fucking losing. And peace is having your money in the bank and not spending it and giving it to the Indians at the casino or the government or whoever these corrupt evil scumbags that run casinos. So much evil that happens in the casinos. But anyway, once you can be happy with peace and you synergize with all parts of yourself that are good and helping you attain your goals in life, and we don't lean into repenting and atoning enough, which I think we'll get into in the next one on the shadow work, addressing the shadow. I think that's where we'll focus most of these on. Once you can be happy with peace, man, that's something to really think about. Thrills can't be all that fun if I don't know. Gonna have to really go at this one again. Expand good outward. Once you've gone through the spiritual alchemy, you've addressed your shadow self, you're gonna become the person that you wanna be. Keep the good parts of yourself. Work on changing your response on the negative parts of yourself into a positive so that you can it's like if you don't let something that hurts cause you to spiral, then you can continue to progress forward towards what you want, and you just get there faster. Everything that causes you to prevent you from attaining your goal is just even the things I'm doing now seem trying to make them productive, but they're preventing me from doing what I really want to do. And then once you start expanding good outward, you're gonna start receiving good back. This is gonna be a lot of bad too that comes with it, especially at first. But if you keep pushing through and keep going through these processes and keep refining your spirit, your soul, yourself, then the reception things you're gonna receive are gonna be great. And I'm gonna go into the shadow in a different location. These doggos can be moving about. Today is shadow work. We are just gonna give an overview of what it is. The approach psychology takes is one of the theorists that's well known, if you will, divided the human soul, the human into its fragments. And these fragments he called the id, the ego, and the superego, and then further divided them into persona, anima, the shadow, and then the self, separating out what those different elements of your spirit are and how your spirit gets divided. And so we'll just dive into those real quick in an overview. The id is your basic desires, your most base desires, and they outline it as sexual desire because that's the one most humans prefer to act out, that has the least amount of visible consequences, readily visible consequences. And it's more than that. It's more than that. What is it? There's the, like we outlined in the needs list. Once you get your needs met, once you have all your base level needs met, food and water, then whoever is meeting those needs, if you have any sort of admiration or any, it's just tough. It's tough to separate it out. The desire to have sex is just there. So if your friends, gee, stop, it's fine. It's just my shadow. Come on, it's just a shadow. It's nothing to be afraid of. Thank you, baby girl. I'll protect you from it. I'll protect you from that scary shadow of mine. Promise, promise. Come here. Let me just talk to nothingness real quick, okay? Sorry, this is boring and scary in here. Thanks, Ace, for being a good boy. Alright, we're gonna get through this quick. The doggos hated in here. So the sexual desire is just gonna be the most prevalent need that is a need that is always gonna want to be met if you're around someone that's a mate. It really boils down to if you think if you have offspring with that person, that you'd be okay with it. And as long as then you meet those whatever criteria that might be for the girl, then all it is just about being nice to her and treating her like she belongs to you, i.e., just like you own her anyway. Rambling on, then the sexual desire will just naturally come. So then that's just the games they play. The ego is how you change those needs getting met. The wants, those are the desires that come from the external sources in the world. The societal input that you put out to how you perceive yourself to others and how others perceive you. That's your confidence, your self-confidence that we talk about in the hierarchy. What is your self-esteem needs, and your value and how other people see you is kind of what that ego is. That's pretty much all the ego is. And then the concept of the super ego is essentially your ideal self, your moral compass, the guilt that guides you to make the right decision versus the most expedient, or the one that'll provide the most pleasure for the moment. We could dive into the concept of hedonism, which is live in the moment and get your needs met, do whatever feels good. And it's a good way to live life. It's just the component of it is that you can't live a happy life if you know you're destroying someone else's soul, because it's the karmic balance that's going to take effect. And then you can't have that happiness in the household anymore because there's a division and the soul's fragmented off. We'll talk about it more, but it's the version of your higher self. That's your super ego. That's when you're making decisions that are best for your future, and ideally the current moment, not just for yourself but for your community and those around you. And my idea is everybody, and it's best you can, but which then dives into the fragmented out into the persona, which is kind of the ego, the anima, which is, like we said, the id, your urges to have something. So you have your spirit is divided into the material world and how you're building your life in the material world, and then your human natural instincts, that's your id and your ego. And then the shadow is a kind of a combination of your id and ego. That's your emotional response to what your persona is telling your anima, I guess, if you will. But that's what we're gonna dive into mostly today, is that shadow, what that is, the repressed side of yourself, whether that be in a natural instinct based on an emotional response to a stimulant, the part of that you hide from others that you know about yourself that you shouldn't be doing, so you keep it a secret and you try to prevent other people from knowing it. And the problem with the shadow self, as we get into, is there's just no way to hide from the universal laws of the karmic, and just I just need to go study the universal laws to be able to really tie those into these lectures, which will happen soon enough. But you repress it because it just causes issues. So we're gonna be addressing that over the course of these lectures because it's important to address. Then the self, that's the super ego, that's your whole self. What are you completely integrated? So that would be, what is your persona, the anima, and the shadow, all living in the light, living in unity with self and community. That's that oneness. So the super ego and the self, that concept is, that's your higher self, ready to ascend to any height and take on any feat that challenges you, I guess. Today we're focusing on the shadow, which is how do you get your needs and your goals met and attain your goals, and the methods that you use. I guess, well, why is it important? Because the universal laws, for example, karma, the effects we have on others, then that return back to us. Why is it important? Why is it important? Because the response we have affects our future self, which is fairly important at times and needs to be taken into consideration. So then you get the negative emotional response, the negative vibration. We use the vibration chart, the energy chart, to help outline what that means. Essentially, the negative vibration causes you to have that fear and those panic attacks. They're the source of the panic attacks. So you can go to a psychiatrist and they can give you drugs that prevent the panic attacks, but they don't necessarily, and they're not. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to do it when you can just heal from it emotionally, and then not deal with it anymore. But most people don't want to do that, which we'll get into. Concepts there: you judge others, and you project those judgments off onto others, and then it tends to always cause problems down the line, whatever reasons those may be. Causes the destruction. Where are we at? You project those out. Manipulative types of people will instigate arguments between people by reminding them of things that causes the emotional triggers, those emotional responses that will cause negative vibration, that cause the destruction of relationships, that cause the destruction of creation and the connection to oneness, the connection to source, and the ability to grow and actually be happy in this fucked up world. Then go run and hide and play pretend that you're the fucking victim. That's what you're gonna fucking do. You're gonna go play pretend you're the fucking victim. And then not all of it's bad. But the goal should be to eliminate that auto response that causes the problems, the panic attacks, the suicidal ideations, the destruction of anything that you built. It's important too, because once you control those auto responses, then people can't control you. You know what your triggers are. Then you know when people are actually trying to use your triggers. Once you become aware and you wake up to the people that are trying to use you by pushing your buttons, and it's a whole new world opens. A whole new world opens up to you, and once you can control yourself, then you can control others. And I don't want to necessarily put the idea of control others in your mind as in mind control of any subservience. But once you control yourself, then people will trust and respect you more. So then your decisions carry more weight. You carry more power in everything you say and do once you live in the light as a real one. Stop playing fucking make believe. The concept of is the law of attraction, I guess. I put it in there because like attracts like, so you create what you want to bring into your world, become that, and then it attracts in to your life. People are afraid to look inside. I talked to some people, and the shadow work comes the cognitive dissonance, because you have to look at yourself and how you're affecting the situation, not just how other is. So how then you can change and operate so that you can be at peace in different scenarios. Then you have to fully analyze what's really going on too, because There's just simple things that people get caught up and it causes emotional kind of trauma, like making a commitment to somebody, a promise to somebody, and then not following through that promise. It causes, like, even if it's not a big deal, it's just you kind of know it's there, and the more people are capable of doing it, the more they become that person. I guess it causes the bad blood and the broken relationships. Then people tend to just avoid each other because they're just gonna. I'm gonna have to think a thought that I don't want to have to think about. So then it's just best to avoid that person and not think about them because then I don't have to think about it. And that's just such a fucking cunt way of going about life. So it's best just to fucking own up to your shit and get it over with and move on with your fucking life and try not to do some fucked up shit and know who is who. Know who is who is good. It's a good thing. And the good way to know who other people are is by really analyzing yourself, which is what we're going to go into more too. So we're analyzing from the different angles, and the idea is to approach the shadow self is how do you perceive it? How do other people perceive it? Then also knowing that we're all connected in some level of the anima part of human, the id, even if we're not in the same material world and we don't get gassed up by the same material shit. Once you know that it's in you, then you can realize that that's in somebody else too. And also, then you can realize if it's in somebody else, then you're at some point capable of doing it to some extent. The goal is to then accept your shadow, accept those sides of you that are who you are, so that you can then be at peace existing with yourself. That's one thing I want to talk about purity, about protecting your purity. What is it? What There's a power in it. The protecting of your purity is how do you live with yourself? That's the scale that you should see. Doing any sinful behavior, that thing that you know that you shouldn't do, but you're gonna justify one way or another and do, and then it's gonna boomerang back at you. So the goal is to accept those sides of yourself, but not necessarily accept them as is. Once you know the devil's playbook and you're awakened to it, it's hard to say you're not the devil if you're using the devil's playbook in any way. And to see yourself as the devil while using the devil's playbook to gain some sort of superficial short-term power rather than eternal life. The goal isn't to hurt yourself, but to ascend. So an example is meditation. So then the concept when we get into it is we're going to address the shadow, so we're going to meditate on it, so we're going to get our breathing right so that we can control the energy a little bit and calm ourselves down when we get fired up. So we're going to know how to do those things and different coping mechanisms and self-care techniques, because it can get really intense when you get angry and you just have to then stew in it. Some people like it and get off on it. They get perverted on it too. It's not necessarily great. So if you don't address it and you suppress it, it can manifest in nasty ways too. The example of anyway the meditation. So then if you're thinking about something and you have an intention that you have set for the meditation session, the mind will wander away from that, and if you catch yourself doing it, people can get mad because they're not perfect to it and they want to do everything perfect as best as they can. They know what they're capable of, and failure to achieve at your highest level can cause the negative energy. The goal is, like we said, isn't to necessarily hurt yourself. It's to understand, acknowledge, and then don't get mad. Redirect your mind back to the intentions for the moment, and that's how you reach success. Once you can do that, once you can say my mind has wandered, my energy has shifted off of the course that I've set up for myself, and my community has we've all have set up, blah blah blah, whatever. whatever you got set up, your moral compass and your life that we set up for us, and the needs assessment and what we need and how do we get those needs met. And if you don't let your emotions pull you away from the goal, you can then you harness that energy and use it towards the things that are going to create more long term benefits for you and those around you, and then you create that more of everything. I don't know, benefits, empowerment. What do we guess we're going to go into it. I'm supposed to define what empowerment is. The empowered feeling. Let's not talk about empowered. Let's take that necessarily out of this element. The empowered feelings can come once you shed all the baggage. They can come at a maximum. They're just so fucking strong. They're so fucking strong. They're so strong, and they can be that strong always. Anyway, rambling. The the being stripped of the power by letting your emotional response get the best of you, and then the person that wants that to happen, they win. And these people are out there. We'll get into it when we talk about the art of war and we get into spiritual warfare more depth. But the people that are out there, that the Ghislaine Maxwells and Jeffrey Epstein of the world, they fucking exist everywhere. They're everywhere. They're fucking every fucking girl's got a fucking Ghislaine Maxwell as a fucking friend that just gasses them up and just talks shit and just runs her fucking mouth about bullshit. It's all fucking feminism is about. How do I get attention? If I yell and scream about this, then I'll get fucking attention, and then all the fucking girls are just playing along because it's just keep the peace so that no one has any. Because once you upset one of those fucking cunts, then they go fucking destroy everyone's fucking happiness. Then you're on their fucking list. When you're at one with the shadow, then you see the things that are going around you at a different angle, the 1,000-foot view, if you will. So you're not just a player in the game, but you're also seeing the other players in the game and their movements, and then the way you can then make decisions by it's not necessarily premonitioning what's going on. It's just about being present and aware about who you are, who you're dealing with, and what's going on, and then you're above the situation, and then how the situation plays out tends to be more in your control, and that's the empowerment that you get. So the self-awareness you get is the success in your temple, your soul being whole and complete, and you're being at your higher self, healing, like we said, less reaction to pain, is peaceful, it's stability, it's attractive. These are all attractive qualities too, like we're talking about. Like, you get your needs met. Once you know how to get all of your needs met, your people are drawn into you because they're like, you're not asking anyone for any help, so you're not asking for favors. No one needs to worry about those kind of things. You just kind of blend into the world and exist as you want to exist, and not bound by some stigma that's tied to whatever your shadow and your ego are causing and your anima are causing. And then tie this all back with being at peace is comfort. And when we tie that all back to once you have all of your needs met and you have that comfort and you have that peace and you can have that abundance and give outward, then the fucking that sexual urge, that's the most base one that just never can be satisfied. That can never fucking be satisfied. Uh, we're halfway done the back page of this. How to get through the shadow work, guys. How do we do this? How do we do this when it gets fired up and we get angry and we just want to spout out? It's real easy. It's actually real easy. The only people that I'm spouting out on are the ones that have no intention of being a part of the healing process. They just want to live in their little fairy tale land and demand if you're not a part of their little fantasy, then you're not allowed to exist because we're all going to play make believe. So we start out breathing and relaxing. The idea is to get into the state of mind to be able to think. I smoke a lot of weed, and we're going to talk about mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms, later and more because they're going to help tap into the higher self, the connectedness. Alcohol unlocks the anima that turns the brain off. It makes you not care about the ego, the super ego, and just satisfy the id, as we describe them to be your animalistic urges rather than your other hopes and dreams that are going to have to be destroyed and shifted and eliminated should you. Anyway, I said Hulk no help, Hulk no help. That's what it is. He's just fucking in Hulk mode in whatever you feel in the moment. And if you're lashing out in self defense or you're hurting, then you're smashing stuff. So the goal is to realize you're like that and exist with it rather than necessarily fighting it. Use it to, we're trying to use the energy to our advantage rather than letting the energy control the outcome. Because that's spirit. What spiritual warfare is try to tap into the energy, into somebody else's energy by becoming their friend, by infiltrating their life and learning about them some way, somehow. I mean, we could get into it in the child trafficking playbook. The idea is to they go onto somebody's social media profile. All the fuckboys and the sluts are doing it too. It's go on someone's social media profile, learn some information about them, try to figure out what we like and try to align likes, like we said in the law of attraction, like attracts like. So you try to share your similar likes, and then you can fabricate that connection real easy. Looking at yourself objectively from different angles. We're going to get into this later on in problem solving and identifying triggers, and then how are we going to approach solving those problems. Asking questions, and then there's a worksheet which outlines a list of questions that you can ask yourself. And then be honest with yourself and look deeper. Don't just point a finger. The cognitive dissonance that can be created when we come to terms with, or when we actually see ourselves, that Medusa complex. Once Medusa saw Medusa, Medusa turned to stone. Cognitive dissonance creates pain. That's the not being able to be at peace with that part of yourself that if you think about it or someone reminds you of it causes a negative response that pulls you out of the present moment, and at least and at worst causes you to do an outrageous thing that winds you up destroying your relationships, in jail, and just the negative vibration. The goal is good vibes only anyway. Breathe again, we talk about that. That's something to think about, is remembering to breathe. Because you might forget that things might get so intense that you're just not breathing, or you're having a panic attack, so you're not stabilizing your breath and you're not controlling the moment. You're letting the moment control you again. So when the energy is high, how are you responding to that? And these are all chances to test that, your spiritual energy, in a safe setting that you've created for yourself. But like I said, we'll talk about coping mechanisms and self care methods too, that are fairly important. That's coming soon. And then we talk about this. It's questioning your emotional response. Like if you, we also talk about on writing these things down too. So if something causes that emotional response, that trigger, write it down, and then the idea is to see it from every perspective of how is this affecting you emotionally, how is this affecting your future, and then how does it affect each person that's involved in the same regards, emotionally, physically, mentally, and then you can respond accordingly. So the goal is to write it down, because then you can return to it later and readdress the emotional response. A lot of times may come back, and you can address it. And again, they talk about it being the rational mind rather than the emotional state, making an actual decision rather than a feeling, and then acting out a feeling. Emotion, energy plus motion. You have a feeling and then you act it out. When you do that and you're around people that are creating that lifestyle, the destruction, then you're gonna face your own moral standards. And the people that I watch, the worst ones out here, they they know all the rules. They know all the fucking rules. You best fucking believe it. And they judge other and they highlight other for the flaws that they know will cause negative emotion towards them, even though they're the same or worse. And that double standard that you hold for other people, it's fucked up. It's fucked up and it's part of the destruction. And I shit on girls a lot and a lot of things, and it's because society, for some reason, allows this victim slash cult slash hive mind concept. When women get together, when groups gather together, they can do this. They can do shit and live in this double standard where guys are talking shit about girls, girls are talking shit about guys, everyone's trash, but no one's looking at themselves to stop being trash. They're just talking shit about other people being trash. So the trash that their shit behavior and the shit things that they do is justified because somebody else's shit behavior, and it's fucked up bullshit. It's just fucked up bullshit. Then, like you said, acknowledgement and understand, forgive yourself and forgive others, so that you can be at peace with it. And the concept of forgiving and forgetting is fucking bullshit. You can't forget until somebody has repented and atoned. Fucking always remember, because know who they are. Because if they're not capable of repenting and atoning, then it wasn't a mistake and it's part of their shadow, and they're not willing to address it. And so then it's a part of who they are, and they're gonna do that in secret behind your back, and cause all the chaos, because that's what people do with their shadow. So like we said, once you realize and can address your shadow, you realize other people have the shadow. And when you know who they are and how they respond and react, and then, like I said, you're playing life on a different playing field. And why is that important? I want to teach. That's not what they're not teaching it in school. It's hidden behind a paywall between different communities that are actually doing it well, and you have to then become part of their cult to then learn it. And I'm going to create a space, a safe place for people to grow and learn, and create a free living space, but it's going to have rules and regulations, and it's going to be a place to create. And if you're not on board with helping build, then you're not going to be necessarily welcome and a part of it. So the goal is to make yourself, make others, your community better, make fucking God proud. And I'm not saying that as worship God, because I really want to highlight that God is all in all, right? So God is the fucking devil too. God is the fucking devil putting these traps out. God's the fucking God's the one that created the fucking snake to fucking go talk to Eve, and Eve's just a fucking skank that wants to go have fun with the new rod. And I'm rambling on. God's also the devil that's creating all the temptation for us to see. I think it's just to see who's worthy to get back in, who's worthy to get their fucking wings back. Cause every time I get close to breaking to beating the shadow demon, it hits me harder and harder and harder. But also the power is felt. Shit. Anyway. Do good, feel good. Do good, feel good. The universal laws. We're going to dive into them more later. They're not necessarily part of all of this, but I think I'll tie them in with the art of war and spiritual warfare in a couple weeks. The spiritual alchemy, another way to talk about this spiritual alchemy. Transmutation, to morph, to transmute, to change yourself from a lower level, from your base level to a higher level. And we talk about in the needs assessment, the hierarchy concept is, are you focused on your base level needs met, or can you focus on your higher self, your self actualization of who you are as a whole? So then there's something about when you're complete and you're in the zone of completeness, your soul is whole. It's a good place to be. It's a good place to be. And so the goal is to find a way to be at one with your id and your ego and your superego, with who you are and understanding the elements of yourself, as this guy's outlined the persona, the anima, and the shadow. But really, we'll talk too about the nature versus nurture concept of what is an instinctual instinct base. We talked about it earlier, and really it's how do you get your needs met. Knowing what you're doing and how you're getting your needs met, what triggers cause the need or desire to make you act upon it, so that you're in control, or know who has control, so that if you're playing around with friends and whatever, I guess. But sorry, baby girl, almost done. The goal, once you're not necessarily focused on your base level urges and they're not dragging you down, you can focus on your self-esteem needs, your higher level needs, your family, friends, your community, your self-worth of who you are today, and know your pain, your suffering, and your weakness. You can work on them, and you can make the pain is weakness leaving the body. So when you address the pain, then that pain doesn't hurt so much, can become to a numbness or even at peace, so that it doesn't cause any pain. Then you can manifest destiny. That's the goal. Stop doing the things that are destroying you from manifesting that greatness that you want to create. Make emotional energy work for you. Make your emotional energy work for you. That's what I keep trying to explain to people. This is the problem with the psychiatric drugs. This is why I hate it. The value in them is you can take the drugs that help you calm down, relax, be at peace, so that you can then address the shadow work without it hurting so bad. And then you can then, in an ideal world, be able to communicate with a level head rather than from an emotional standpoint. But when you shut the emotions off completely, then you're not living as your true self. You're living as, you could see it necessarily as your ego and your super ego, and you've shut the id off. Then you're not, like I said, you're not accepting yourself wholly, and then you're living on these drugs that are preventing you from being your whole, your best, highest. You're living your best life and being your best self. So manifesting your higher potential, which what are we talking about? We have problems, and then the emotion and the thoughts come, and then we react because we need to. Not everybody has people to talk to help figure everything out either, so it can be hard for others. But like we said, live with purpose. Stay true to yourself. And we're going to go into it later. The Jews have the Torah, which the Muslims do too, and the Catholics shouldn't forget about. The Vatican makes it easy for them to forget about, so they can use their little sheeple. But it's a guideline of how to operate within the laws of the universe, so that you can manifest everything that you want and need, and live And I don't necessarily think that anyone has an option of it. It's just you need to learn these things. It's, I guess, should be thought of as a contract, like a marriage contract would be seen as a set of rules and guidelines that you created for yourself, that you bound yourself to other and self. That's what we're talking about here. Staying true to yourself. What are those rules that you create for yourself and your community? And like we tie back the idea of not having double standards too, because there's a lot of people that carry a double standard for themselves and other than they do for other people. They forgive themselves and their friends and don't forgive other for whatever reason. And that leads into self mastery, and then self mastery creates inner peace. It eliminates fear. You've taken fear out of your life. You've taken the negative vibration out of your life. And then when we get into the energy chart, we'll show it again here. The ideal state, I was talking with one of the psychiatrists about it when I showed him this chart. He said the ideal state would be to be at peace in the very bottom, and that would be the ideal state to be in, and that's what the psychiatric drugs can help you get to that state and help you keep you there. But they like a governor on a car, they prevent you from getting to the higher state. And sure, it prevents you from feeling the negative emotion, but it also prevents you from feeling the positive emotions too. It numbs down all of it. So the goal should be to get to peace as quickly as you can, so you can get off the psychiatric drugs and not let the energy control you no more, so you don't need them. Then, like we said, we're using the energy. We're putting the energy back into ourselves, into our community, into our higher self, and ascending to the next level and whatever it may be. And what does that come? That's what we're talking about: serenity, and confidence, and respect for yourself, respect from yourself for yourself, and respect from other people. And just more, like we said, more happiness, less pain, less negative vibe, because we're going for those good vibes only, right? We'll quick talk about mushrooms. We're gonna use them. We're gonna tie into them in later episodes. They're gonna enhance self reflection and help you kind of expand consciousness. What does that mean? They're gonna let you absorb new ideas. They're gonna make you question your reality, so that you're more mindful and more thoughtful. So then consciousness being, when you're more thoughtful, you're more conscious to whatever present moment and whatever it may be that you're dedicating your consciousness to. Expanding it is always a great thing to do. And understanding what I meant by that, if you don't fucking understand it, then I think you should really, you're the one that should really thinking about joining the KKK that I'm setting up here. The cool conditioning course, because we're all in this together. Like I said, the oneness. And the mushrooms, like we said, it helps you, the ego dissolution, that's what it wrote here. The oneness and the connection. Once you integrate yourself holistically, then you can become one with yourself, and then expand the oneness outward with like people. And then the goal is to make everyone realize that we're all in this together, so maybe not just fucking sink everybody's ship. Maybe not. The oneness connection, it fades over time off the mushrooms when you have a good trip and start to get to that point that we're talking about. But once you tap into that feeling, that energy, that spiritual connection, I don't know how to explain it. The tingly feeling where everyone super, I don't know. I might try to explain it another time. It's hard to. You forget, and the goal needs to be to remember, because then once you remember, you can re-tap back into that without the need for the drugs. That's the goal. So the goal isn't to get hooked on these drugs, which you don't really get hooked on mushrooms alone. I don't think. I don't think. I think people are doing lots of drugs if they're getting. I don't know. I got more research to do. And the negative vibration is easier to digest. There can be an emotional emotional extremes, and that's why it's important to know who you're with while you're on these types of mind altering drugs, because like we said, with this knowing how to tap into different triggers, you can cause people to have different experiences on these, and that's when you can really tap into people and start corrupting everything that you want and are can be destroyed by the wrong person getting you into the wrong state of mind. And it's good to have a good guide. Most of these yogis out here are just fuck dolls and dipsticks out here just trying to catch you the next fucking vibe, having fucking fun, trying to make people feel good, trying to destroy connections, saying if you don't feel this way or this emotion happens or you got this going on, then you need to eliminate yourself from the situation or eliminate the situation and don't exist but in a tiny little vacuum of everyone that's making sure you don't have a feeling you don't want. I don't know. It's just a fucking game to some people. Some people I do know it's when you can get somebody, you can get a girl into an emotional distraught state and provide comfort and protection to her, then she's gonna want to fuck. And if you get the right girl that fucks right, like it's great. It's great. So that's the goal, to be a stoic, to be a stoic man and provide that environment. And that's what we're talking about here is how do we address the shadow so we can live in that energy, that aura, as much, that power as much as possible. Not just that power, but all the different types of powers that you can tap into. That one needs to be addressed at a broader term, which we'll get into later. Like I said, when we talk about the Torah and we talked about hedonism and how we need to make decisions. So we say they're pimps, these yogis are pimps and whores, pushing the good vibe. No different than psychiatry. They're just doing the same thing, pushing a vibe, saying I'll give you drugs to give you the vibe and I'll talk to you through your problem. We may find solutions, we may not find solutions, but we're in this together. Thanks for the money, and now here's the drugs. The mushrooms will help facilitate the divine connection, and that's just a mouthful of garbage. To say you'll be more creative, you'll become more like the creator, and you'll want to externalize that, or be internalizing it more and be more conscious of it, and then the creativity comes. Then yeah, we're done now. I can let these dogs go. Thanks for staying, guys. Being good to me. So the next videos we're gonna talk about the mushrooms a little bit, because I want to wrap people's minds around that in the earlier weeks of the training course, so that the later weeks is going to be growing the mushrooms, and once you get the mycelium, it's going to take about a week or two to grow. So getting your mind right on how to make it grow so you don't contaminate it and destroy it is an element that needs to be discussed. So I'm just going to pepper the mushrooms in a little bit at a time. The next episode's already been recorded on what they are, so you can get your mind wrapped around being comfortable with the using of them, being that the only thing to worry about is there's no way to really overdose on them. The death that causes on it is having an extreme emotional response, most likely a person on alcohol, acting out a feeling, jumping out a window, or killing themselves or something stupid. The cognitive behavioral therapy, that's next on the agenda. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Feelings, thoughts, and actions. How do our thoughts affect our feelings, and how do they all intertwine together?